Welcome back. All right, welcome to my latest therapy session. I think we can call this. So, Legends of Tomorrow, a show that I keep up on, and that really this season started off with so much promise, and there are too many moments now where my wife and I are watching this and saying, "What? Wait, what? Why is that happening? What? When did what?" So I'll get into a couple of examples, but so they're stuck in the 1920s. They've moved. They moved to 1917. They were trying to stop World War One. So it's bizarre. So you have fixed points, and when they start talking about fixed points in history, man, do I have Doctor Who flashbacks quickly. So there are big events in history, right? These big watershed moments that need to be left in place, and so um, they're like, okay, the start of World War One is one of those fixed points. Now, evil Gideon running the evil version of their ship. Uh, it's evil because it has red lights, is my guess. Normally, it's blue lighting. It's red lighting with evil Gideon. So, yeah, the Wave Rider is red lights now because it's evil. Because that's like sci-fi's color is red for evil. Blue is good. Red is evil. It's odd. So fixed points, you can't mess with them. You mix with a fixed point, you've completely messed up history. What throws me off is Sarah basically said that the universe as we know it, like the world would end, like Earth, it would just that's it. You change that fixed point in history, it would end. If you fixed points are that slippery slope for sci-fi with me when it comes to the idea of history unfolding the way it should, and even the bad things take place, because there are times in Doctor Who as well as in this show where they change something big and it's okay. And it really reminds me with this of the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. There were times where he decided, all right, I'm going to mess with things because I can. I'm just because I'm the Doctor and screw it. And that was more towards the end of his run, it was really, really nice to see that evolution of the Doctor as a character, which the Doctor used to be. And I say that because now, in the Chris Chibnall era, she's just perfect, and it's just the Doctor is perfect, and everything the Doctor says seems to be perfect. So it throws me off because the Doctor's not supposed to be perfect; it's supposed to be fallible. So the fixed point argument is interesting. The idea that World War One needs to start is interesting. However, the bar. So they have this bar for time travelers, right? This idea that if you want to go out and try to change this fixed point, prevent the shooting that will start World War One, or you want to prevent that, as if like if you prevent that moment, they're not going to find another way to kill them and start World War One. Okay, they're just going to, all right, well, we took our shot and it's over. But that doesn't matter. If you change this fixed point, everything's going to blow up. Earth's done. Don't you dare change this fixed point or Earth's done. Even though World War One kills millions and millions of people, but that's fine. That's fine. It's not the point, right? So they've got this bar of time travelers. There's like dozens of people there that are all waiting their turn to change the fixed point. And so you go out there and you get your turn, and then you might die. It looks like sometimes they die, sometimes they don't. And so yeah, fixed point. You got a time traveler bar. Who put that there? Who maintains it? How does it and it's this whole they throw in this whole it exists in another it's another dimension. It's just this whole it's the pocket dimension laziness of Doctor Who all over again. It drives me nuts how, and they do it in Doctor Who, they'll be like, it's pocket dimension, because if they say a pocket dimension like what they already have in this show when it comes to the mansion, right? The mansion's in a pocket dimension, and outside it's hell. Don't ask any questions, just accept it. So, weird. Uh, so yeah, the fixed point thing and the time traveler bar is odd, because to me, I'm like, okay, so somebody set up the bar before time travelers started coming back, or after time travelers came back and they started failing, so they had to have a place to hang out while they were waiting to try again. And why can't they all just go at once? What's the rules? Like, there seems to be some idea of rules behind time travel that they kind of get into. The idea that maybe there's this, and again, it's an MCU idea, right? We saw that in your Loki series, where in the Loki series is all the divine timeline. This is our timeline. The prime, don't mess with the timeline. And it's sort of the same thing with Legends, except they don't give you these parameters so well. We've already seen them change major things in history. Major. Bebo changed history. As weird as it sounds, a little stuffed furry blue thing, and that changed history. And what a waste of Thawne. So Thawne, the villain from The Flash, and they don't really get into how he's there, since Thawne is also in The Flash. And he's got Harrison Wells' face on The Flash. This one, he looks like Thawne from when he was in Legends as a member of the Legion of Doom. But they don't really get it, and it's like, yeah, they took my powers and they set me here so I can keep the fixed point in time steady. Okay, who? So are we gonna get into who's behind the whole thing at some point, or no? I'm interested to see. And Thawne, it was a waste. You could have put any actor. It doesn't matter that it's Thawne, and then they kill him. I was like, wait a minute. So they've killed Thawne. They made him not a villain, where it's, oh, I see the error of my ways, and I've seen what changing time can do, so I need to do this. And he's just dead, and it's pointless. I think Thawne can be a really good character. There's a reason the Flash keeps going back to him, because he is the best villain. And really, I thought it was just a wasted opportunity. I freaked out when I saw Thawne. I was like, okay, so the idea Thawne can stop time. While time is stopped, he can make sure that whatever time traveler is there to make things work, that he messes up their plan. Whether it's moving their gun to the side, whether it's just knocking him down if he's got her, they end up dying, they die, right? And so he's making sure that the fixed point is protected. That's his job. That's all he gets to do now. And they don't really get into it. And he's kind of down and depressed. And then when he dies, it's just over. And it's like, and then Sarah's supposed to take over. Cosmically, she's supposed to take over. And I was like, okay, so there's a way out of this. You have the robot versions of the Legends running around, as well as the human versions of the Legends. The way to get around this would be that the human version of Sarah Lance gives the robot version of Sarah Lance the watch, the time travel thing, whatever you want, and she agrees. Now, the robot version of Sarah Lance has been wavering on her mission to destroy the humans, right? She's been, and they showed that in last week's episode. Well, forget it. She's just back to being a mindless killing machine, I guess, which doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of this that didn't make sense this week that just doesn't. Like, can Gideon see everything, or can she not? Because there are things going on in this show that Gideon, the ship version of Gideon, not the human version, the ship version, that AI, would absolutely be seeing what's going on and hearing what's going on. And there were points where, especially when Bayrod takes the place of robot Bayrod and goes on to the evil version of the Wave Rider, I was like, they know. Gideon knows. Nope. Nope. And then he gave the robot Astra and Ava a laxative that kicked in immediately. So the robots with body functions, like regular body functions, how did the laxative kick in that quickly? What? Like, I found myself kind of confused at that, and then he throws Astra out of the pocket dimension mansion into hell, which is kind of dark. There were a lot of points during this episode where I was like, there's a lot of people dying. So the time traveler bar last week is established. This week, almost all the time travelers get shot and murdered, or holes punched in them. It was really dark. This is a show that then, okay, so you have them being murdered. Now, they made sure there's no blood, but you see somebody getting a throwing star between the eyes. I don't care if there's no blood or not. It's still dark. So they're dead. And then you have a robot version of Nate with comically oversized arms doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. So you're going from really dark murdering of all these characters that were established in the last episode to, hey, look, he's doing a goofy Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. The jarring difference in tone really threw me, where I was like, and I actually had to pause the episode and say to my wife, wait a second. We just saw a bunch of people get murdered, and now there's slapstick 10 seconds later. This is the kind of tonal shift I would expect in the Flash. This is the kind of tonal shift that I would complain about in the Flash. I cannot give Legends a pass. Legends to me is still the best of the shows on CW. And there's some discussions about how financially stable the CW is and whether or not the network's going to exist much longer and what that would mean for the Arrowverse or the Flashverse, whatever you want to call it right now. So there is the possibility that other shows could end up, being canceled and the whole network could end up being gone at some point over the next couple of years. But the Arnold voice thing to me was aggravating because, like, him getting hit in the head and all of a sudden talking like a bad Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, what are you doing? Is he supposed to be a villain that you're afraid of? Or is he supposed to be this goofy character with big arms that's adult? It can't be both. You can't do that. You didn't have Terminator in the original Terminator movie cracking jokes and falling down and doing something goofy and then trying to murder Sarah Connor. That would not have worked. The tone needs to be consistent. So if Nate's going to be this evil murderer, and if all of these robot versions of the Legends are going to be evil murderers, then you need to be consistent in your writing of it. They can't be evil murderers one scene and then really stupid the next, which is exactly what happened, where you had the robot alien version of Gary, which somehow still has all of the alien ability to eat humans, eating the robot Spooner because human Spooner told him that there was a pretend to be robots. It's tough. It's tough right now. And then they showed a preview of next week where it's them on the Wave Rider and Gideon's trying to murder them. I'm like, oh no, not again. So, and the what is on the board just because of the number of times that I'm watching this now and I say that word. There's at least 5 or 6 times per episode right now over the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks of shows anyways. I don't think it's been on 3 weeks in a row, but over the last 3 episodes where I have said out loud, what? And I've looked over to see if my wife comprehends what we're watching. No. And there's times where we pause while we're watching it to discuss what's not making sense in that moment. We're like, did we miss a scene? We even had, I want to say it was 2 episodes ago, a discussion about whether or not we had missed an episode because characters were acting off. They were, and where it starts is these two right here. Zari and Spooner all of a sudden are off on their own, and it's the same thing the Big Bang Theory started doing in later seasons. And I mentioned Big Bang Theory because, of course, it's a huge show, and I watched a lot of it, and there were things that started to bother me, so I contrast and compare other shows when they're starting to do the same thing. There were episodes of the Big Bang Theory where you would have Amy and Sheldon on their own, you would have Leonard and Penny on their own, and then you'd have Raj maybe on his own, or more than likely with Bernadette and Howard on their own, and the 3 storylines wouldn't cross maybe at all. So it's writing where you're only having to do 8-minute skits for each set of characters, and I think it's lazy, right? So with a comedy in the American side of things, it's like 22 minutes, I think it is, for half an hour. And I say American side because if you're watching a British show, it's 30 minutes for a half an hour show. So the commercials mean you only have to write like 7.5 or 8 minutes for each set of characters, and it makes it a lot easier. But then the problem for me is the resolution and the problem, they're nothing. It's nothing. You can't have a real solid, well-written episode where you have 3 8-minute skits. Zari and Spooner suddenly don't like each other. News to me. Suddenly they don't get along and they don't talk. And so throughout the episode, they suddenly become buddies. They find something they agree on, which is they don't like people. Oh, okay. And it's weird. The whole thing is bizarre to me between Zari and Spooner because it's never established before that. Now, the other thing that's kind of damning with the Zari Spooner thing is that then in this week's episode, it's gone. So we have no established storyline of Zari and Spooner not getting along, nor do we have anything this week showing that suddenly they're friends. There was this weird exchange towards the end of the last week's episode where it's, yeah, we're but, and people look at them funny and then it's gone. So maybe we could call them Roy storylines, like The Simpsons, where Roy comes in and he's just there like Poochie. And it's weird. And then you have the Astra Gideon thing. So Astra conjures Gideon, which nobody seems to have really touched on this year. Like she's upset over the ship being crashed and destroyed, and she creates a human version of the AI, and it just feels like the whole cast went, "Oh, cool! She created a human version of the AI from our ship." That's a completely normal, not absolutely terrifying development with ramifications that could absolutely influence the rest of our existence on planet Earth. Uh, all right, human Gideon, how you doing? And sometimes she's human and sometimes she's a robot, because sure. So Astra gets mad at Gideon because she wants to help and basically yells at her like you'd yell at your child. And then they came at Astra with this, she's kind of your kid and you created her. And I'm like, okay, wait, whoa, back up. So we're into the Flash territory now, where the Flash conjures up whatever, and that makes them as kids. And it was the dumbest, worst storyline ever in the history of the Flash, and it's had some bad storylines. We really need to take this Astra's Gideon's mother thing and bury it as quickly as possible. Bury it as quickly as they buried the ramifications of the legends killing people in history and robots replacing those humans. It's so weird. So and I've tried and I've been like, okay, this is going to be like season 5 of Andromeda, where they're on a planet rather than on the ship, and they all learn to work together, and we're going to see these human relationships work, and then when the ship's going to come back, it's going to feel fresh and new. It's going to be great. And when they got back on the Wave Rider at the end of this, it didn't feel great. So they unplugged Gideon, which seemed really simple. So Zari basically decides, well, I've had enough of this. I'm just going to unplug everything. Rips all the wires out, and that unplugs Gideon. Why didn't they do that in the first place? Why are they doing this whole encryption code thing to override this and that? Just go in there and rip the wires out and unplug her. Just do it. You know it's an evil version. You've got the real version here in Gideon. She remembers everything that the other Gideon knew. Her brain's kind of established as a robot brain in an episode. For people who haven't watched the show, I apologize. And I wish there was a less confusing way to describe this. But Astra being Gideon's, it's just, there are times where it feels like, okay, this scene exists to give character development, and it's awkward and it's kind of clunky in its direction. So, and the other problem the show sometimes has is there's too many characters. There might be a little bit too much to follow at the same time. I will say the show's missing Rory bad right now. Mick is so missed on this show. His personality and just what he brought into the team, and towards the end of his time, he was being left on the ship a lot, and he was kind of being kept out of missions. I think it's just, I don't know, I guess it was Nick's personality that just caused him to be left on the ship a lot, but they're missing something. There's something really missing. The fact that Sarah is all of a sudden invincible, we just accept that now. Sarah can just die for infinite number of times, and again, doesn't freak anybody out. We've created a human in Gideon. We've got a human that can't die in Sarah. Interesting. What? Wait, what? And then, like, Robot Nate was threatening to decapitate her. Well, wouldn't that kill her? Does the head live? Does the body... Are we looking at, like, a reanimator situation? I will keep up with the show because I've watched 8 seasons of it. But... man, this season, I really thought that when they got rid of the alien side of it, which they have, I was like, okay, the alien thing is good. This is good, because the alien thing was weird last year, but it's meant that now Spooner has this weird psychic connection to everybody. So now that the aliens are gone, Spooner needs to have something else to do, so now she can, like, feel emotions off people and know when they're lying. But only at certain times when it's not that important. Or other times where it's like, this is where Spooner's empathy would be, or not empathy, empathic abilities would be really good. No, we're not going to get into her ability to read people's minds or their. All right, cool. Okay, so it's only used in certain situations, and others, which again feels like Doctor Who. Doctor Who, there are plenty of times where you're like, okay, this is where the sonic screwdriver, he used it last time. Oh, he's not using it this time. That's curious. It worked last time. It's I'll get through this. I'll get through this season. I'll feel like a stronger person once I've done so. I'll feel better once I've gotten through this season. But it is, there are so many questions that it's not going to answer. I've learned with this show, they're not going to answer it. There were so many questions I had with the alien episode or alien episodes last season, the whole season. None of them were answered. So I was like, wait a second. So he's done this. So who brought up? Okay, so what it caused? Okay, cool. And I understand that you're adapting stuff that's been in comics most of the time, but you can't count on the audience having read all the comics. And there are times where you need to have that exposition there, and you need to deliver it in a way that's not clunky or weird or off. And sometimes the show really struggles with that. The actor playing Constantine, his doctor, and the name escapes me, which says a lot because he's been in there quite a while. I'm not sure what the point is of the doctor character other than he invented time travel, and that's it. And I'm not sure what other purpose the character's gonna serve. And now I guess he's a legend too. The other thing that I thought was weird at the time traveler bar was that the time travelers, there was a group of 3 younger guys, well, 2 guys and an alien, because sure, why not? They were laughing at the legends, laughing at Sarah like, you're old, you're washed up, you don't know what you're doing. They watched Sarah and the legends go out and screw up the fixed point reset dozens of times. It felt like it was dozens. I know it wasn't that many, but it felt like dozens. And then when they get their last idea and they figured out that Thawne's there making sure the fixed point's covered, all of a sudden these guys are like, oh, you're awesome, and you can take our turn because now we respect you. And I'm thinking, okay, wait, these are the same guys that were laughing at all of the other attempts that failed. They've watched them fail over and over and over again, and now all of a sudden you have this respect. And in the next episode, you're willing to run off onto a battlefield and potentially die for her, for the legends. It didn't work for me. I was like, these time travelers don't have any respect for them. They're not all of a sudden going to have it now. And the idea too of changing a fixed point by 40 minutes and that causing, the evil Gideon to come check it out. Well, the evil Gideon, wouldn't she know that it just changed by 40 minutes? So she wouldn't send the robot versions of the legends to come fix it? There's too many questions. There's too many questions. And I think that a well-written show, you don't end up with that many questions. And that's where the show's at right now. So again, I've been pulled this far into the show. It's had some really good seasons. I still have hope that we'll get back there. I love the cast. The actors and actresses on this show are fantastic. And there's a scene with Ava where she's talking to the new Constantine character about love is love is love and all this. And honestly, the emotion she put into that scene and the acting in that scene was so good that on some level I felt bad for Jess McCallan because that performance is delivered in an episode that people, I think, will largely forget. And a season that I mean, maybe it's doing really well. I don't think it is, but maybe that'll resonate with people. But yeah, it's, again, you shouldn't be asking what too many times in a show or too many times in a movie. And the more times that I'm saying what, the more likely I am to pause and ask questions. It's something I've done going back to the 90s, and this is way back when I'm in my early 20s, and I'd be by myself, pausing a movie, talking to myself and saying, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Why is that? And just as if I would find the answers from myself to the questions I had about the movie I was watching, which sadly I never did. But anyways, there you go. Thank you for joining my therapy session on Legends of Tomorrow. If you've been watching it this season, let me know how you think this season's going to end. Obviously, I think it's going to be human Gideon versus evil Gideon. Human Gideon's going to win out. And I think it's going to end up being like what we saw on Andromeda, where you had Rami, the AI, who existed as a human. And also there was the AI version of Rami as well, and they were connected. And I really enjoyed Andromeda. I did. I thought it was a really good show. And so if Legends is going to kind of, be like that, I'm fine with that. So the human Gideon got stabbed at the end of this episode by Astra coming back from hell, because that might as well happen. And again, it just kind of left me groaning because it made it look like Astra was a Terminator more than anything, and I thought, this is so ridiculous. This is just so over the top. And yeah, so there you go. And if they can get back into the mansion from hell, why doesn't anything else from hell say, it's that mansion over there, and just run it? Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.